Greetings. I would like to teach you a very good opening with black against one e4 that's called the Sicilian defense. It could be played many different ways, and our Sicilian variation is going to be involving knight to c6, which is called the Sveshnikov variation. I would like these to be video series where I cover different ways white can play against you and make sure that you're comfortable in most of those variations. And today we're going to be looking at what happens if white develops the bishop to c4. It could happen on move 2 or 3. This will be just transpositions, and I don't want you to get a headache from it because it really doesn't matter which move order they're going to be choosing. So over here, we're going to be playing knight to c6, and later we're going to try to take advantage of the fact that the bishop here is susceptible to the pawn attacks. So we hope to either hit the bishop with e6 d5 or with a6 b5 later on. Our opponents are going to be playing knight to f3, and over here we're going to play the move e6. So very often we're going to be threatening in the next 10 moves to get this pawn move to d5. This also helps develop our dark square bishop. Over here, the main move for white is going to be to castle kingside, and before we play d5, I recommend the move knight to f6 here, attacking the pawn. Now here I want to show you a little cute trap that a lot of players at your level may fall for, because the moves that they have to make to move to the trap territory are very natural. So the move is e5. Well, the pawn is well protected. They're trying to kick away our knight. Over here we can play the move knight to g4. So we're attacking the pawn twice. They'll play rook e1 and defend it the second time. Well, now we can play queen to c7 and simply attack the pawn the third time. So over here, if they're going to be playing queen to e2, we can finally attack it the fourth time, and they cannot defend it more times, so likely they will be taking over here, after which you can take back the pawn and develop the bishop. Here you have fantastic position. If ever your knight gets kicked away, it can simply go back to squares like e5 or f6. You can castle short. Later, your light square bishop is going to be beautifully placed on b7, and black in general has a very good game. So here is a moment where we can set up a trap and hope to win the game early on. Another move that they have in this position, besides queen to e2, is pawn to d4. So this also gets the pawn protected. Well, we're going to be taking on d4 over here, and after knight takes, even though we could take on e5, I have even a better move for you. Knight f2, shocker. So we're basically sacrificing a piece, but the idea of it is really to prepare this bishop to c5 pin. So because their queen is hit, let's say they take the knight on f2, now we can take on d4, and after they take back, we have bishop c5, winning the white's queen and winning the game. I've had this quite a few times myself, and my students have had it many more times, so know for sure that it's possible for you to get to this position. So let's go back. We looked in this position, what if they play e5 and push that pawn? However, most of the time, our opponents may not play for e5 and play a move like d3. So over here, my recommendation is to go for a6 and be preparing the move b5, followed by bishop to b7 very often. That's going to be the place where your light square bishop is going to feel like at home. Let's say bishop to g5 by white. I looked up that this is a very popular move at amateur levels. And what's very interesting in this position is we can kick away the bishop because our king is safe in the center, because the center is simply closed. So after bishop to g3, we can again expand on the queen side with b5, say play knight to h5. Our development is quite easy. You can play, for example, dark square bishop to g7, and it is even safe to castle short because black is in dominance over the center, or you could say the center is closed, so white is not able to open up the center of the board, which would be a way that our king might get into trouble due to the pawn placement on h6 g5. All right, so in this position, I think that I can leave you with the hand on my heart. Engine also agrees that black is much better over here. Let's go back all the way right now and see what alternatives does white have to playing short castles. One very popular move is going to be d4, simply striking in the center immediately. So over here we're going to take, because white is threatening simply to overextend with d5 and kick our knight to a passive position. So we're taking once, and then we're going to again play the move knight to f6. So at this position, we're threatening the pawn on e4. Remember that if they take on c6 and they play a move like pawn to e5, we always have this beautiful check on a5 with the queen, to win that pawn back on e5. Not the back actually, but to win a pawn, since we didn't give them a pawn in the first place. So this e5, we always carefully watch. We're very vigilant about it, but we have tricks up our sleeve to deal with that. So after knight f6, most common move is going to be the move knight to c3. And there are quite a few moves here, like for example, Engine recommends d5, but I don't want to blow up the position when I'm behind in development, so I will recommend the move bishop b4. I think this is more aggressive. The idea is that the knight is not functional right now anymore, and we're threatening to win the pawn on e4 in this position. So very often our opponents are going to be finally taking the knight to release some tension. We're going to be taking towards the center. And bishop d2 is the most popular move at amateur level. Here we can simply go d5, take over the middle, and after this forcing line, have really comfortable game. The bishops are getting exchanged. Black has the center, lead in development, castle short. Mwah. Black is in a good position. You will thank me later. So this is the line that covers what if white plays d4 right away. And you will see a lot of transpositions if white is choosing different move orders. So for example, another move that they could go for is knight to c3. And over here, if we play knight f6 and they play e5, where they have seen it before, where we play knight to g4 and start attacking this pawn. So you will already know where the game is heading. Instead, if they, for example, play pawn to d4, then we can take and play bishop b4, and we're transposing also to the line that we just looked at. So this variation or repertoire that I'm giving you is quite easy on memorization of yours. Another move that they could try is pawn to d3. This is more of a so-called close Sicilian, when white is not exchanging the pawns in the center, and this is the only time when I recommend striking in the center right away with d5. Most of the time, I really like this move when I've already played the move a6, and they're not able to pin me as a result of this exchange. However, here it's too safe not to recommend this. We're going to simply be playing bishop d6, and our setup is going to include move knight to e7. I don't want you to get checked or run into any kind of pins along the e file, so we're going to beautifully place the knight on e7. You will castle short. Your light square bishop has good places on e6, g4, or f5. You have space advantage, so these two pawns are going to make sure that they shield your bishops and knights in the center. Black is just slightly bit better due to better piece placement in the middle game, and you have a safe king, everything that you will want out of the opening.